I say shouts out to all of our brothers and sisters out there in social media land. This is indeed a great day to be alive. Get it back over there. This is the day the Most High have made. We should rejoice and should be glad in it. I'm coming to make this video based on one of our sisters. Based on one of our sisters, I'm going to make this video. I ask that you, if you would be so kind, you can share this video with some of the brothers and sisters, if you would be so kind, because many of us are already fully aware of the things that are going to be said. However, this particular sister, Sister Yiska, she had asked me if I would do this again on 2 days ago. I received the post and she was shouting hallelujah. She said, I've made it one full complete year flesh free. That means that she ain't ate no steak, no chicken wings, no crab leg, no fish, no turkey. She said, and it started 1 year ago when you did a 14-day no flesh and blood fast. She said, he said, Elder, I think it's about that time again. So a lot of our other brothers and sisters can have an opportunity to attempt to do it. And there'll be many that have been around. We started those initial set of videos September, this month, 2 years ago. And this month, 2 years ago, I have not eaten any flesh and blood. Many, there have been thousands upon thousands. I would probably opt out to say that, and this is just a ballpark, and I'm not going to say that this is massive, but I'm just saying right here, and I think personally that is being more. Because when I look at my YouTube channel, I didn't realize how far your YouTube channel can go. I haven't seen the other people have my YouTube channel in their phone, and then it has so many views on. But I would go as far to say there have probably been at least 100,000 people reached with that no flesh and blood in them 2 years that have gotten off. Which shouts out to our brothers Malachi Maccabee and them down there in St. Louis, Honor and Humility platform, which has a massive body of people. You see, the Most High is reaching his people in droves with the things that are important. We're not judging nobody for what they doing or what we don't do. We do what we do because of our ignorance. We do what we do because we've been raised to do it. We've been trained to do it. And we're going to prove that. We're not telling you that you're going to hell because you eat hamburger. We're not telling you anything. What we are telling you is that you heighten the possibilities of you becoming sick with some type of disease, eating flesh and blood, because this is where most of your diseases come from the things that we eat. We're not telling you what you can do and what you can't do. So we're not putting these videos out here from a judgmental standpoint. You see, we're not telling you that you can't fix you no Passover lamb. What we are telling you is that you'll be throwing dirt in the face of the Messiah, who literally abolished the law of sacrifice and who declared, I desire mercy upon the animals and not sacrificing them. We're not telling you that you can't eat a lamb on the Passover. But what we are telling you is that you have to prepare yourself when you do eat the lamb, that this is not something that the Messiah instructed you to do. So a lot of times brothers get mad and they get confused because they think we're coming with a judgmental hammer, but that's not the case. We're going to show you that there's no new thing under the sun, and we want to see. Listen, if you're on this page and you have been off of flesh and blood, not only do I want you to put a 7 up in there, I want you to tag somebody that you know still doing the same thing. And I'll wait for a moment to get that done. So the thing is that brothers and sisters kind of get it twisted. And what I tell them is that, listen, we teach the Bible, okay? We teach the Bible. We teach different aspects of the Bible. So when we go into some of these other things that's dealing with flesh and blood, it's like instantly, it's an instant turn off. Well, since we was babies in high chairs, our grandmothers and our mothers and fathers been chewing up flesh and blood, putting it into our mouth. It's automatically, this is the only thing we ever been exposed to. But we also watched our grandmothers and our mothers and them die of sugar diabetes, of heart disease, of high cholesterol, of heart attack, of stroke, of cardiovascular disease. We watch our people die and suffer sickness from all of these things, and we never understood where these things came from. Every food, every illness that we face in the hospital today is a result of eating the dead carcass of animals. And I know that sounds crazy. Well, I've been eating chicken all my life, turkey, steak, and all of my life, barbecue. This lover of barbecue. Listen, when you don't know something, you just don't know it. You can either be turned off by something that you didn't know, that you're coming to know, and then stay stuck in the same place, or you can acknowledge the fact that, you know what, maybe I do need to cut down. Because when you start going to the doctor and stuff like that, first thing that them doctors gonna say, hey, you need to slow your intake of pork down. Hey, you need to cut back on the salt. Hey, you got to cut this starch out of your. They start telling you things like that when you get sick, because they're about treatment. But when you start talking about being about a cure, you're talking about a complete change or reversal in your diet. So our sister asked if we can do it again. So all of y'all that put sevens up there, I want y'all to now reach out and tag somebody that you know is a friend of yours that have not responded to the same thing. They need to have an opportunity to hear. They need to have an opportunity to be challenged. You see, because many times people have been turned off in areas that y'all were able to accept the challenge. And you accept the challenge, but then you might possibly be the very one to go out there and start turning people off because you don't know how to deal with them or relate what it is that need to be said about this particular thing. So you got people mad at you and walking away from you simply because you don't know how to deal with them. Well, every now and then you just tag them and then let me deal with them. So that's how we don't do that. See, many of us have made our livelihoods off food. Some of us have restaurants, and all of these particular things. Hey, we gotta live in this world. You see, you live in this world. I just say to myself, you know what? I ain't gonna do it. So I understand where brothers and sisters be at. Some of us have restaurants. Some of us develop our own product line that's specifically pertaining to to the eating or the consuming of flesh and blood. It's totally understandable because we do all these things based on what we don't know. And then we have brothers that come and try to justify. Well, our Hebrew Israelite brothers and our Christian brothers, they one and the same. Because when it comes to this particular issue, they stand in total agreement. You see, one say he can kill the animals and eat them because of Torah. The other one say he can kill and eat the animals, and he can kill and eat the animals because Paul said he could. And it don't make no difference whether it's what Torah said or what Paul said. Both of them are in cahoots together, and both of them have this particular groups of people, and they got more agreement than they realize. You see? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna show you that there ain't no new thing under the sun and why it's so intense. So we want to challenge all the brothers and sisters that will respond. We want to challenge them to a 14-day fast. No flesh and blood. We're going to start reading in John, the 1st chapter. Want to see your help start coming back to you. You want to see diabetes get reversed? You want to see you put the high blood pressure medicine back in the cabinet? You want to see all of these things that we're dealing with the hospital? You want to see some of these things go in reverse and fade away? I dare you. Go on this 14-day fast. Because 2 weeks is enough time for you to see a major difference in the way that your body feels. Yep, so let's go. We're going to start with John first. We're going to start with John 21st chapter first. Just to make a point. John verse 21st chapter. And we're going to start reading at the 24th verse. This is the disciple which testified of these things and wrote these things. And we know that his testimony is true. And there is also many other things which Yeshua Jesus did, the which, if they should be written, every one of them, in books, I suppose that the world could not contain the books that would be written. See, there are so many things that the Messiah did and said. He said if every one of them could be written down in books, the whole world couldn't contain the books that would be written. So what make anybody think that this little bitty patch could be the grand sum total of the life of the Messiah? How foolish is that? It said out of all the things he done and said, if they could all be written down in books, I suppose that the world couldn't contain the books that would be written. And some of you in your mindset have boiled his life, his teaching, down to this, and watch this. Those of you that had that mindset, this is how foolish you look. Watch this. This is the disciple that testified. We know that his testimony is true. He said there are many things that the Messiah both did and said, in the which if every one of them could be written in books, then the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. So you telling me that this little bitty patch in the middle, is dealing with the life of the Messiah that you say you love and you serve. And this is all you got in this book? When you get to the law and the prophets, you got this much. You got this much. When you get to the Pauline epistles, you got more of the verses of men than you have the life of the Messiah in the Holy Bible. Why are we going here? Because I suppose if everything he done and said could be written in books, then the world couldn't contain it. So there are many more books in this world that have been written concerning his lifestyle, which men won't go outside of, but you'll be fooling yourself. Because if you think that his life story could be contained in those few pages that don't even surpass the pages that are written at the hands of men, that's stupidity at its finest. Now, this is why we want our brothers. If you hear and you still on flesh and blood, that's fine. What I want to know is, we want to know any brothers and sisters on the line that will accept a 14-day no flesh and blood challenge. Say, what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? Oh, there's plenty for you to eat. We're going to help you every step of the way. Now, let's explain to you why you should at least attempt to do this. We're going to come out of the Nazarene Act of the Apostles. This is called, okay, I don't want to go right there. I'll save that page right there. I'm going to save that page right there. We're going to come back to it. The Nazarene Act of the Apostles is going to be called the allowance for the eating of flesh and blood for a time, or the allowance of zabah, the allowance of sacrifice. When in the meantime Moses, the faithful and wise steward, perceived that the vice of animal sacrifice to idols had been deeply ingrained into the people from their association with the Mitzrayim, the Egyptians, and that he could not get the root of this evil extracted from them, he allowed them to eat, but he permitted it only to be done to Yahweh, that by any means he might cut off one half of the deeply ingrained evil. Meaning when you say your grace, you don't say your grace to the God happy no more. You say your grace to the Most High. He said, permitted you to do it. He said, by any means he might cut off one half of the deeply ingrained evil, and he will leave the other half to be corrected by another at a future time, namely him concerning whom he said himself, a prophet will the Most High your Elohim raise up unto you, whom you will hear even as myself, according to all things that he will say unto you. Whosoever will not hear that prophet, his spirit shall be cut off from his people. We know that the prophet was the Messiah that was coming. He was to come and do away with the second half. So you notice what the Messiah did away with. He abolished the law of sacrifice. Notice how when the Messiah got on the scene, people were already walking by Torah. People were already walking by. So they said they were walking by what Moses told them. But Moses was trying to extract the root of this evil, which was animal sacrifice, out of the people. It was so deeply ingrained in them because of their association with the Egyptians that it was no way possible that he could get it out. You want to see something strange? You see, because when the Messiah came, they already had the Torah. They already had Moses. They already had the prophets. But he could not get the root of animal sacrifice out of them because it was deeply ingrained into their mind, into their psyche, into their DNA. Because of their association with the Egyptians. Because they grew up in the culturalistic form of Egyptians. They had never been exposed to anything except what they seen going on in their country. And when the Messiah came, they were governing themselves according to the customs of the Egyptians who they had learned from. Even though they had all these so-called laws, their mind was still deeply ingrained with this particular evil that could not be extracted. And that is why the Bible says, thou shalt call his name Yahshua, for he shall save his people from their sin. You see, Torah could not save them from the deeply ingrained evil that came from their association with the Egyptians. The law couldn't save them from the deeply ingrained evil that they learned from the Egyptians. The prophets couldn't save them from the deeply ingrained evil that they learned from the Egyptians. The only one that could save them is the one that will have the authority to abolish the root of the deeply ingrained evil, which was the initial sacrifice itself. And when the Messiah came and was put to death because he destroyed the root of animal sacrifice, which was the temple, which the altar, and was the Levitical priesthood, the people would be set free. Because that's what he came to do. They would no longer be committing the sin of animal sacrifice. This is where you get your Essenes from. This is where you get your Ebonites from. Those poor ones that will follow the Messiah and walk away from those things that they had learned, which were really Egyptian culture that they had made a part of their culture, which as the children came up, just came up thinking that it was the culture of the Israelites, when it was not the culture of the Israelites. It was a deeply ingrained evil culture from the association of their parents with the Egyptians that funneled down from one generation to the next. And there were those that would walk away and follow the Messiah. There were those that would want to bring it back there were those that would want to hang on to it. You know why? Not because they were so wrong and they were so terrible, but because of what Moses said. I noticed when I went in there to get these children that there was a deeply ingrained evil of animal sacrifice which could not be extracted from them from the root because of their association with the Egyptians. Now, let me tell you something. Let's go to Luke 21st chapter. Let me show you something. Because you got to see this. And you got to understand why. Because it's bigger than just some taste buds. It's bigger than just your health. It's bigger than all of that. It's being able to understand the Bible and see a systematic scheme that have caused God's people to stay in a deeply ingrained evil place in their life. Watch this. Let's look at what the Messiah said. See, we got our brothers out here. And I don't harping on my brothers, but I'm just trying to reason with my brothers. You on tour, you on tour, you on tour. You tour so bad. What is it about these things that you don't understand? That Torah had people was captives even though they had Torah. Even though they had Torah. Anybody on here will accept this 14-day no flesh and blood challenge? I dare you to do so. The Bible say when Adam ate what he wasn't supposed to eat, that his eyes was darkened. He could no longer see like he was supposed to, and his spirit man died. But when we start eating what God told us that we can eat, the eyes are quickened, the spirit man are quickened. Your mind and your mindset becomes sharper than you ever. I know my brothers and sisters on the line, they can tell you that they mind is sharper, that their skin is glowing, that they feel good in their body, that their body is functioning, that they can hear their body speak to them when their body say, boy, you better not go too far. You better not go too far. Listen, we telling you things that we know based on experience, and we coupling it with the word. Let's go to Luke 21st chapter, and let's look at what the Messiah told me. Luke 21st chapter, beginning at verse 22. For these be the days of vengeance, that all things that are written may be fulfilled. Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and they shall be led away as captives into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled. Now here you got the Messiah prophesying that Jerusalem was going to be destroyed, that the men was going to fall by the sword, and that the people was going to be led away into all nations and made slaves out of. All right, that's what you got the Messiah saying. Now, somebody come along and tell me that when the Messiah spoke those things, that you didn't have the Torah. Tell me that you didn't have the first 5 books of the Bible. Tell me that you didn't have the law, the Levitical law. Tell me that you didn't have the voice of the prophets and Moses and them. When the Messiah came along and spoke that, you had all of those things and still fell by the sword and still went into worldwide captivity, and you still gonna continue to make your brothers think that this is some grand important part of the book. It depends on how you're looking at the book. But if you're looking at the book of the Torah from a salvational standpoint, you're in great error. Good morning, King Moshe. I ain't doing nothing, making a video. Live on the wire. What you doing? You got something going? You serious? You need something? Oh, I ain't doing nothing. I'll call you as soon as I get through. I'll be through within about 20, 30 minutes. You can jump on there and check me out if you want to. All right. Love you, son. Yeah, so my thing is this, is that when we start dealing with the Bibles, we want people to understand and learn the Bible. We don't say that the Torah is insignificant, because the Torah is a great part of our history. It helps us to be able to see clearly some of the things that were required of us. It helps us see clearly things that were transgressed, areas that our forefathers went wrong. But when we start trying to use that from a salvational standpoint, we go into denial to all of the promises that were made to us by the Messiah and all the things that were done. You see? we don't want to go into denial. Yep. So we had all of these things, and we still went into worldwide captivity. But you say, I thought I came to save my people from their sins. Guess what? He did. He abolished the law of sacrifice. He abolished the Levitical priests that were intercessors. He abolished those things. He abolished the temple. People were set free. They now had the freedom to live their life and walk in the footsteps of him. They had the freedom to do that. But they also had to pay the penalty for the previous sins that have been committed. Now, we're going to show you ain't no new thing under the sun. And why it is when we start making these videos dealing with flesh and blood, brothers buck, well, let's give you an idea of how they bucked against the Messiah back then. Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Watch this. Deuteronomy chapter 28. Now the Messiah already told us, I know you got the Torah, I know you got the law, I know you got the prophets, but what you're going to understand is that this curse is coming up on you because you have transgressed the prophets, the law that come by way of the prophets. He said, these be the days of vengeance, that all things that are written must be filled. What was written? It was written in the oath of Moses in Daniel 9th chapter. That all Israel have sinned. To you belong mercies and goodness forever. To us belong confusion of faces. We have not hearkened unto our prophets or our elders, neither have we obeyed your voice. Therefore is the curse and the oath which is written in the law of Moses poured out upon us. You see, they wasn't listening to Moses. I know our brothers right now that try to justify Torah and animals. They always want to reach and go grab Moses, but be in complete denial that the reason that the curse is spelled because here's this curse and this oath which is written in the law of Moses poured out on us. Moses is the one that declared, when I went into Egypt to get them, I noticed that Israel had been gripped with a wicked vice that was deeply ingrained in them, and that I could not extract the root of this evil out of them. No matter what I written, no matter what I told them, I could not get it out of them. And because of that came a set of curses, blessings if they would hear me, curses if they would not hear me. Well, they would not let me get that root of that evil out of them. Henceforth was the oath which was written in the law of Moses poured out on them. And the Messiah said, I'm the second half of the completion of Moses. Therefore, these be the days of vengeance, that all things that Moses had written must come to pass. You shall fall by the edge of the sword, and then you shall be led by your enemies as slaves into all nations. Hold on 1 second. Here we come. Now bear with me 1 second. Be right back. Good morning, Maggie. How you doing? You see, so we showing you ain't no new things under the sun. Now, so I want you to understand that we are the Moseses and the Messiahs of this day, because we're still operating by their spirit. See? So, now let me show you. Because remember Moses said, God gonna raise up a prophet. He gonna be just like me. He gonna have a glow. He gonna be able to do signs and wonders. He gonna have a mouthpiece on him. He gonna be able to converse face to face with the Most High. He said, but you shall hear this prophet in the same manner that you hear me. He telling you. He said, all the people that ain't listening to me, they ain't gonna listen to him neither. He said, but the people that's listening to me, they gonna hear him in the same way that they listen to me. Those that will not listen to him, the same thing shall happen to them that didn't listen to me. Their souls shall be cut off from amongst their people. And every time that they didn't listen to Moses, God cut their soul off from their people. Every time they didn't listen to the Messiah, God cutting the souls of people off from their own people. Now, he said, the Messiah said you're going into slavery, right? Watch this. Because you're going to see we're indeed the children of Israel. Watch what happens. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. Familiar passage of scripture. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way whereof I spoke unto thee, thou shalt not see it no more again. And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for male slaves and female slaves, and no man shall buy you. Now, when we was in our Israelite culture and sold to other nations surrounding us, every now and then, after a certain time, one of our family members can come along and buy us out of slavery. He said, but where you going, ain't nobody going to be able to get you out of no slavery. Here's the thing. When we start talking about what we doing, the flesh and blood, listen. Moses said, when I went in there to get the children of Israel, I realized that it was a root of animal sacrifice that had been so deeply ingrained into their mind, I could not extract the root of this evil. Tell me that this modern day Egypt that we in have not deeply ingrained the killing and the senseless murder and the eating of dead carcasses. Tell me that it's not so deeply ingrained into the minds of our people that the root of this evil cannot be extracted out of it. Tell me. And where did you learn it from? You learned it from your association with the modern day Egyptians, which is this particular culture that we grew up in our captivity as slaves. We have never. You had the Torah before you got ownership, and you got the Torah now, but no man can buy you or deliver you out of that servitude. The only thing that's going to deliver us from the deeply ingrained root of this evil is the spirit of Yeshua HaMashiach, to be able to quicken the eyes and quicken the spirit and help us to see that this is not something that you just started doing. You couldn't justify what you was doing before you ever got on a boat. That is why the oath and Moses and the curse was poured out on us in the first place. See, to my Hebrew brothers who think you got to fight, who think you got an argument, if you sit there and you just listen objectively with an open mind looking to understand something, you'll see. To my community leader brothers, my brothers out there raising their own cattle, doing their own farming, if you'll put your feelings to the side and put your emotions and pull your opinion out of it and sit down and look at the Bible and look at the history of a particular people and see what's being said, you might come to the conclusion that good God Almighty, the Spirit of the Most High is real. I ain't never seen it put like that. I ain't never heard it put, but I can see with my own eyes how this played out. The Torah couldn't stop you from going into captivity. The law of the Levites couldn't stop you from going into captivity. And it sure ain't gonna be what gets you out. Ain't no man gonna be able to buy you out of this captivity. It ain't but one way that we coming out. That's that we got to hear the voice of the Messiah and come running out of there. We got to come running out of there like the man came running out of the tombs. Moses said it was a deeply ingrained evil because of their association with the Egyptians. And it's a deeply ingrained evil right now. Because even though This deeply ingrained evil is killing us. Look at what it was doing in them. The deeply ingrained was killing them. It was killing them. God killed them all through the wilderness, all through Numbers. The deeply ingrained was so rooted in them that not one person, only 2 people that ever came out of Egypt went into the promised land. Only 2 people out of 600,000 footmen, not including women and children. Only 2 people, 2 people. Only 2 people that came out of Egypt went into the promised land. All of the rest of them died where they were at because of a deeply ingrained evil, which the root could not be extracted from them. We in the land of our Egyptian captors. We have learned the culture of the Egyptians. We are doing the things that the Egyptians have done. We are eating things that have been strangled, eating things that have been sacrificed to idols, to the idol gods of this world. The Egyptians didn't care about the creation, and neither do these modern day Egyptians care about the creation. They got torture facilities to torture and hang animals upside down, torture them, cutting their testicles off, pulling their tails off, chopping their ears off, doing all these things to them while they're alive, and they're afraid, and they're heartbroken, and they're depressed, and they're all of that. And don't you know that all those spirits now transfer onto the one that can put them on a plate? And it turns into sickness and disease. Anybody on here that would dare go on challenge on a 14-day, no flesh and blood fast, we're going to show you why. Why it's so important for you to attempt it. Why it's so important for you to attempt it. Why it's so important that you at least attempt it. And Yahshua answered and said to them, it was said of them of old time, all beasts that move upon the earth, and all fish of the sea, and all fowls of the air are given into thy power. Then we're going to put a precept on that. That's going to come out of Noah, the 9th chapter, or Noah, 3rd chapter. I mean, not Noah, Genesis. Yeah, Genesis 9th chapter. We're going to precept it and what that means. All beasts have been given into thy hand. It says, all beasts move upon the earth, all fish and all the fowls are given into thy power. But I tell you truly, of all the creatures living upon earth, God created only man after his own image. Wherefore beasts are created for man, and man, not man for beasts. You do not therefore transgress the law if you kill a wild beast to save your brother's life. For I tell you truly, man is greater than beast. But he who kills the beast without a cause, though the beast don't attack him, he who kills a beast for the lust of slaughter, or for the lust of his flesh, or for the lust of his hide, or yet for his tusk, evil is the deed which he does. For he is turned into a wild beast himself, wherefore his end also shall be as a wild beast. He said, you don't transgress if you kill a beast because it's getting ready to attack you, or you save your brother's life. He said, but if you kill an animal for any other reason, if you kill an animal for the lust of slaughter, that means that you're a sportsman. If you kill an animal just because you want to go out there in the woods and shoot something, he said, oh no, you'll turn into a wild beast yourself. He said, if you kill an animal for the lust of his flesh, if you are going to kill an animal because you want to eat him, because you think he tastes good, you'll turn into a wild beast yourself. He said, if you kill an animal so that you can make you another leather jacket and wear some alligator shoes, if that's the purpose that you going out there slaughtering the animal for his hide, he said, evil are the deeds that you have done. and you shall die as a wild beast yourself. Have you seen the way? Have you seen the way that our people are dying? Have you seen the way that our people are dying? The lust for slaughter. It's just a sport out here. It's a greater sport with us killing each other. It's just as great as men that go hunting in the woods looking for something to kill. The lust of the flesh. Everybody wants to kill the black man. Everybody wants to kill the Israelite. You're dying like the same wild beast that we've allowed ourselves to be subjected to and become a partaker of everything else that everybody else is doing. See, ain't no new things under the sun. Listen at this. It says, another said, Moses is the greatest in Israel. Moses told you that God was going to raise up one that was greater than him, that was in Israel. Well, the one that God rose up that was greater than him in Israel is the one that's doing the speaking to them right now. But guess what they said? Another said, Moses is the greatest in Israel. You know how many of our Hebrew Israelite brothers are stand up and say something stupid as that? Moses is the greatest in Israel. We walk about a Torah. Have you not forgotten what Moses told you? That one was coming that was greater than me? He said, Moses, the greatest in Israel, suffered our forefathers to eat flesh of clean beasts. Now, and forbade us the flesh of unclean beasts. Now, listen to what he said. Moses, our forefather, the greatest that was in Israel, he suffered our fathers to eat the flesh of clean beasts, and he forbid the flesh of unclean beasts. He suffered. To suffer something is to give you permission to do it or to allow you to do it. Moses didn't command you to do it. Moses didn't have no choice, just like we don't have no choice now, but to allow one to go and order a T-bone steak. When we go to a function and a gathering with our brothers and sisters, we have to allow them to fire up their barbecue grill and make the pork ribs and make all of these things on the grill. We have to allow them. Those things come by permission because we don't have the authority to take their taste buds away or to change their mind. And Moses didn't have the authority to do it neither. And so they classified him as a great one in Israel. But Moses said it was a deeply ingrained evil that was in them, that they were sacrificing and eating the animals, and the root of that evil I couldn't get out of them. So I just had to let them do it. So here's one talking to the Messiah. He said, Moses, the greatest in Israel, he suffered, he permitted, he allowed our forefathers to eat the flesh of clean beasts. Well, where did clean beasts come from? When do you ever see God classifying the beasts as clean and unclean in that manner? We know that when Noah was given the order to go out there and get the clean and the unclean beasts, we know that there was a line of distinction that was drawn from there. But you don't see God telling Noah that he can eat clean and unclean beasts. When it comes down to eating the flesh of animals, there is no clean and unclean, because the clean animal was not made or created to be a food source for man. And somebody find that in the book for me if you think you can. If you can find where God gave man clean beasts as a food source and it don't go against what God told Adam, I'd sure like to see it, but I know you ain't gonna be able to find it. So listen what he asked the Messiah. Moses, the greatest in Israel, suffered your forefathers to eat the flesh of clean beasts and forbade them only the flesh of unclean beasts. Why therefore do you, Jesus, Yeshua, forbid us to eat the flesh of all beasts? Which law comes from God? That of Moses or your law? And Jesus answered, God gave Moses 10 commandments by your forefathers. These commandments are hard, your forefathers said, and they could not keep them. When Moses saw this, he had compassion on this people that they would not perish, and he gave them 10 times 10 commandments, less hard, that they might follow. See, don't keep telling me what God did. God did one thing. Moses did something else that was according to his own understanding of the people. You're not going to attribute everything that Moses done to the people or told the people. You're not going to say that God said that. You're not going to tell me that God told Moses to tell Aaron of all of these clean, all these beasts they can eat. Let's see how true that is when we start putting what God is saying. Directly spoke to Adam. God directly spoke to Noah. God directly spoke to Noah. Here you got God speaking to Moses, and then Moses going directly speak to the people. But let's see what God spoke face to face to Adam. Of all the fruits of these trees, in the which is a seed, thou shalt freely eat. This shall be meat for you. That's what God told Adam. Let's see what God told Noah in the book of Genesis. Yeah, because Noah is the one that had the instruction to deal with clean and unclean beasts. And if it was okay for him to eat the clean beast, then God would have told him that it was okay for him to do so. So let's go see. Somebody's lying. I smell a rat somewhere. And 9 out of 10 times, the rat then crawled out of the gutter of our Hebrew Israelite camp brothers that's so sincere about Torah. That's where the rat done crawled out from. And you had the Torah when Moses was here. The first 5 books. You had the Torah through the life of all of the prophets. And you still went into captivity into Egypt, into Assyria, into Medo-Persia, in the Greek captivity, in the Chaldean captivity. You had the Torah. Then when you went there, you had the Torah when the Messiah came and said, he shall save his people from their sin. You had the Torah because the oath of the law and the curses that are written in the law of Moses are contained in the Torah. You had it then. And when Jesus said, these be the days of vengeance, that all things that are written in the Torah must come to pass, must be fulfilled. Because you transgress the same Torah that you declare that you keep, you shall fall by the edge of the sword. You shall be led away as captives into all nations, and there you shall be sold. You shall go back into Egypt, and there you shall be sold unto your enemies for male and female slaves, and no man. How's something gonna deliver you that you went across the ocean already being guilty of? I know what it is. Now, let's go here. We're going to Genesis. I hate to get excited about that, man, but some of this stuff these people doing don't make sense. And it's not nothing that's aimed directly at no individuals neither, because my story is the same for everybody. The same for everybody. Let's go. Let's look at the clean and unclean. Y'all say your clean beasts come by way of Levitical law? All right. Let's see. And God blessed Noah and his sons, chapter 9, verse 1. God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth. And the fear and the dread of you shall be upon every beast on the earth, upon every fowl, upon the air, upon everything that moveth. Everything that moves. Hold on. You made it, son? Let me finish this video. We'll be ready. He said, and the fear and dread going to be on every living thing that moves, upon the fish. He said, and they're all given into your hands. Here's where we get wrong at. Every moving thing that lives shall be meat for you. You see that? He said, I've given you everything. The fear and the dread shall come upon you from all the animals and you know, and the fowls of the air and all of that. And I have given them into your hands. And then verse 3 says, every living thing that moves shall be meat for you. And that's what people hold on to. But look at what he told Adam. Thou shalt have dominion, replenish, subdue. Those things are what it means when it says they are given into your hand and the fear and dread. When it says every living thing that moves, watch this. Even. The even is telling you what he means. Every living thing that moves, even as the green herb, I've given you all things. He telling you, same thing you can eat is what I told Adam. Watch verse 4. But the flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, you shall not eat it. Well, the flesh and the blood is dealing with the living, with the clean and the unclean beast that Noah was instructed to go and bring into the ark for the preservation of all the animals. He said, I have given fear and dread over the animals, over the things that fly. That is why you're able to go and get them and bring them into a ship and they'll obey you. He said they have been given into your hands to be able to have dominion over them and to subdue them. He said, but listen, and what you going to eat, I have given you every living thing that moves. Every living thing that moves. Every living thing that moves. Only plants that grow out of the ground are living and moving. Once an animal is not a living and moving thing when you eat him. When you, in order to eat an animal, you have to first take his life so he's not living. In order to eat an animal, second thing, you have to kill him so he don't move. So he not talking about ain't no clean animal. Because the only thing you're going to eat that's clean is those things that live and move. And he make you understand that things that live and move, I ain't talking about no animal that's grazing around, walking around out there. Because in order to eat him, he had to cease being living and he had to cease to move. He got to become a dead thing. And if it's a dead carcass, you ain't got no business touching it no way. He said, but I give you every living thing that moves, even as the green herb. And then he went back and told, but the flesh and the flesh and the blood with the life there, everything that has life, you shall not take a life of anything to kill it and to eat it. He said, you shall not do it. Where is these jokers going to talk about clean and unclean beasts? Because clean and unclean beasts alike, both of them had life. Both of them were flesh. Both of them were blood. And God told Noah, you should not eat the flesh and the blood. And anywhere you can find somewhere that contradicts what God told Noah, that lines up with what God told Adam, you know that it's a lie somewhere. It's a rat somewhere. But somebody love themselves more than that. So that's where we at, right there. So, 14-day challenge. Anybody on the line that might want to live up to that? I tell you, our brothers and sisters that have responded to these videos in the last 2 years are now way past the 100,000s. The 100,000s of people having a diabetes reverse, losing weight, you know what I'm saying? Our brothers coming up all of these different things. King Moshe, he on fast right now. He's fasting his sweets, you know what I'm saying? He just naturally a big dude. But we still, even being a big dude, he got to stay toned up. He got to stay in good shape. He never know when he gonna have to run from his enemies. He never know when he gonna have to chase somebody, you know? So it's like, it's what it is for all of us. We got somebody, you want to accept the 14-day no flesh and blood challenge, you go on and do it. Ain't nobody got to be watching you. Ain't nobody got to be hovering up over you and nothing like that. That's between you and the Most High. So, peace and blessings on all of y'all.